Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. What is up, everybody? This is Ruben, and I am back, finally, after a long hiatus, with another Ruben Report. It has been a long time coming, but on this day, the time of me making this video, which is November 1st, a year ago, I purchased my KLR 650, and so today marks my 1 year of ownership with this bike, and this is going to be my video about my 1 year long-term review with my 2005 KLR 650. Before we get into the review, as always, I'm going to be doing a mileage check to see how far I've actually ridden this bike in this past year. And so here we go. All right, so it looks like we're sitting at 21,005.3 or 4 miles. So with sitting a little over 21,000 miles, that means we have ridden this bike in total 9,400 miles this past year. And I'm pretty grateful for that. But as you guys have known, if you have watched my 6-month review video, and also have been keeping up with my other review videos and know how I've been riding this bike for this past year, you guys know that the reason why I've been bought this bike and have been riding this bike, I've been riding it as a main method of transportation. This is not a recreational vehicle, or wasn't a recreational vehicle. So it's not like I was going cross country or anything like that. This was a vehicle to get me back and forth from work. And the projected amount of mileage that I was anticipated when I first bought this motorcycle was somewhere around 13,200 miles, so a little over 13,000 miles in a whole year. But again, after watching if you watched my 6-month update video, you guys also know towards the end of that video, I made the prediction that I most likely was not going to potentially reach that mileage realistically this year, mainly because, well, I was changing job positions. I was no longer going to be working at the place that I was currently working at that time, which is exactly what has happened. All right. And so for the past pretty much 4 months, I have no longer been working at the job position that I was working at, which was the place I was commuting to back and forth from every day. So without needing to commute so far, naturally the mileage dropped down significantly, and so, which is great. It's great that I no longer have to commute so far, or really at all. And for these past 4 months, the bike has been still used as my main method of transportation, but the riding has been not as frequent. Right? It's more like the grocery getter, errand runner, and the occasional, commute here and there to remote places. And that's all information that we're going to get to a little bit more when we get into the review, but just want to let you guys know about that when it comes to the mileage. All right, so now we're going to get into the modifications update when it comes to my KLR 650, and once again referencing my 6-month review video, not much has changed at all. I've only added 2 more upgrades since my 6-month update, so I'm just going to go ahead and point those out. We have a new shifter, and we've also put on drop pegs. So these pegs sit It's still the same stock pegs that came with the bike, but the bracket lowers the pegs about an inch or so and puts them a little bit further back. So that way I have a better seating position while sitting on the bike. I am 6'5", so having just a little bit lower foot pegs just makes my seating position a little bit more comfortable for me. For all the other upgrades, I'm going to just show you guys a list, a compiled list of that, because it's just so much and I really don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys refer to that list, and then we can talk a little bit more about it in the garage. All right, so now we are back in the garage and we're going to go through this list that I made for my upgrades on my KLR 650. I got them in 3 different categories. We're going to start with the reliability upgrades. So, number 1 is the doohickey. If you own a Gen 1 KLR 650, the doohickey, in my opinion, is a absolute must upgrade to do. These bikes are notorious, especially the Gen 1 KLRs are notorious for having the doohickey fall apart, and it can grenade your engine. So have that replaced. For my bike, fortunately, when I actually opened it up and went in there, I have a video on that actually. So here's a video that I have on my Facebook with me actually doing the doohickey for my KLR 650. And when I opened it up, to my surprise, I actually found that the Eagle Mike doohickey was already installed on the bike, but as you guys can see there, it has the extension spring still. So that's an Eagle Mike doohickey with an extension spring. And the reason why it still had an extension spring in there, I believe the previous owner, he replaced the doohickey really early on, and the previous owner for this bike, he owned it for like 17 years. So he's basically had it almost since it was brand new. He's not the original owner. The original owner had it for less than 1,000 miles, and then the guy that I bought it off of, he had it ever since, until I came along. And so the second owner, the gentleman that I bought this bike off of, as soon as news about the doohickey came out and was, pretty big within the KLR world, he went ahead and just replaced it. And I don't think back then, in the mid 2000s or late 2000s, the torsion spring was available. So I went ahead. I mean, I opened it up because so many people say that they do the doohickey, but never do. But to my, pleasant surprise, it actually was done. Nevertheless, the kit that I bought was the kit with the torsion spring. And so here's a picture of both the doos side by side. They're both literally the same thing, Eagle Mike doohickeys. But nonetheless, I had mine had the torsion spring kit. So I went ahead and drilled the hole there in the case, and then I installed the torsion spring. All right, and the final product is going to be here. Okay, so that's the install of the doohickey for my bike. All right, next upgrade, we have the thermal bob. That I do not have a video for, but we don't really need it. It's right here on this side of the bike. And that is that. The drill through subframe bolt, I do have a video for where I was drilling through. However, you can see it as well. I believe it's right on the tank here somewhere. recessed in there. It's probably better to see it on the other side. Yeah, right there. All right. And I did this along with many other upgrades on a video that I did back when on a video. It's called KLR 650. Lots of upgrades and maintenance. There I did the drill through subframe bolt, the suspension, and some other things. All right, so now we get to the safety upgrades. Oversized front brake rotor. That's going to be this guy right there. Absolutely necessary safety upgrade. I cannot stress that enough. For those who know or maybe don't know, the stock front brake rotor for this bike is only 230 millimeters. Yeah, I still had it laying around. So this is the stock brake rotor, 230 millimeter. Okay, and in comparison to the oversized brake rotor, get a picture of that. Okay, maybe even side by side. All right, this thing is tiny in comparison to this guy, and this couldn't really stop the bike all that well at all. The oversized front brake rotor is, in my opinion, is an absolute necessary upgrade for every single Gen 1 KLR 650. Okay, especially for folks who utilize this bike as I have as a commuter bike. This is not necessarily for people who, or it can be as well, for people who ride off-road. Maybe it's not as important, but for those who ride in traffic, commuting day by day, I cannot tell you how many times having the extra stopping power has helped me avoid so many incidents where it could have gone sideways had I not had the upgraded front brake rotor. So absolute must-do safety upgrade for this bike if you're going to be utilizing this bike as a main method of transportation or commuter bike, as I have, or if in general you're just going to be traveling, riding around on the bike a lot. All right, the next safety upgrade I have is a flashing LED rear brake. And just so you guys know, the color coding, the reason why these are green or yellow, all the green upgrades are the upgrades that I installed myself. The yellow ones are the ones that the bike came with. So this is the first one that I did not install. This was actually already on the bike. So I'll go ahead and let you guys see that in action here. So turn that on. And then step on the brake. Yeah, every time I step on the brake, it flashes. It's a cool little safety thing. Gets people's attention. We also have, lastly, our security alarm. So that's this guy here. And all right. So just that way, nobody messes with the bike once I park it. And that is that. All right, so all the rest of the upgrades I have in just kind of like a miscellaneous convenience, comfort, possibly even performance upgrades. These are all literally everything else on the bike. All right, so starting with the center stand. That's what the bike is sitting on now. Absolute must-have upgrade for those who don't have a bike lift. It just makes doing maintenance a lot easier, having a bike in a level position. and just for storage as well. It's just easier to keep the bike upright. Doing oil changes, tire changes, like literally everything maintenance wise, just so much better when you have the bike on a level surface with a center stand. LED headlights and LED lighting all around, also with auxiliary lights. We can turn the bike on again. So LED in the front, and we also have the auxiliaries. Okay, and again, LED lighting all around, so turn signals and the rear tail light that we already saw. Okay, and then we have hand guards with the turn signals. All right, so these hand guards, I integrated the turn signals in them, as you can see. And the reason why I did that is because the mounting place for my auxiliary lights is where the old turn signals used to be. So instead of making new mounting places, I just used the place where the turn signals were and put the turn signals up here. All right. We have a tall windscreen. So this is something that came with the bike already. As you guys can see, we have the windscreen extension. So that little extension on the top. I'm really tall. So me sitting on the bike, I still can see slightly above, but the wind, when it comes, I barely feel anything when it comes to sitting on the seat here. So this has been very helpful, keeping the wind and bugs, as you can see, off me. So many bug splatters on there. We have bar risers. So these guys here, they're just some generic risers off of Amazon. Nothing special about them. They just bring the bars up and back a tiny bit for me. We have heated hand grips. This is also an upgrade that already came with the bike. And I believe these are the Bike Master brand hand grip, heated hand grips. So that's these guys here. Work amazing. Absolute game changer. While riding in the winter. We have my phone mount, USB charging port, and my cheap Walmart watch, along with my throttle lock. So we're talking about everything that's on the handlebar here. So Walmart watch helps me keep the time. USB charging port that also has the voltage meter, so I can keep an eye on my battery. And then we have phone holder. Okay, holds my phone and I can charge it. And I believe the next thing on that list was my seat cushion. This is a mesh, so I can get airflow in my nether regions during the summer months, and also during the winter months, even when it's raining, when my bike is sitting out and I don't have my rain cover, like when I park at work or something. The seat is not wet because the water kind of goes through it, and so I still have a pretty dry seat because I sit on top of this meshy cushion instead of the soggy foam. Okay, next will be the top box, the pizza bag, the rear racks and panniers. So my top box, I bought this off of Amazon. It holds my helmet and gloves, if I have them in here. Probably not. Oh yeah, I do. And whenever I go grocery shopping, this has been an absolute blessing. I can carry so much stuff along with these Pioneer cases. These are just Harbor Freight cases, Apache 4800 cases. Okay, the rear racks were already on the bike, so I just went to Harbor Freight, got these big cases and put them on there. And the pizza bag. This is when I was doing Uber Eats and DoorDash with my bike. This was just a hot bag to carry pizzas or other larger items when doing food deliveries. All right. What else we have here? We have now we have suspension. So we have progressive front forks and the Top Gun rear shock. So with this one, I want to show you guys this video here where I actually show my suspension tests. If you guys have watched this video, you guys know what I'm talking about. So with the old suspension, okay, it was pretty piss poor. Like, it was very worn out. So when I would sit on it, it would sag a lot. And it was very bouncy. I was barely moving it. And every time when I would try to come to a stop, it would do a pretty nasty nosedive, as you guys can see there. Okay. And then when I upgraded the suspension, this was what progressive front forks and the Top Gun in the rear. Once I sat on it, it didn't sag as much. And then this is me trying to rock it. Definitely didn't wiggle as much at all. And then I did kind of like the little, see if the nosedive went away, and it drastically changed the entire handling of the bike. But yeah, but this video, this is the video where I installed this drill through subframe bolt as well. I was drilling for quite a while, and I also changed the fork oil and a lot of other different things. It's a great little video that I did a whole bunch of maintenance for the bike. But that will be the suspension upgrades that I did for the KLR. All right, the next set of upgrades, we have the push-pull choke, the highway pegs, tool tube, and the rear brake master cylinder guard. So that's going to be all over here. And so under here, and I replaced the choke lever. So it's no longer underneath here. It's just a regular push-pull style choke now. And the reason why I did that is because the nut that was on here that goes into the carb, it was made out of plastic, and it broke on me. So I'll just replace it with this brass push-pull style choke and remove the whole cable and all that. Makes it a lot more simple. So I pull on that, and I can start the bike. So it starts right up. Another benefit of the push-pull choke is that you can adjust the tension on it. So there's like a tension adjustment nut here. And with that, especially for like winter, you just pull it once. You let the bike idle, and as it's idling, the vibrations causes the choke to slowly return in on itself. So that way you just pull it once and you don't have to push it back in. You just ride off, and by the time that the bike is warmed up, it's already closes on itself. Just takes a little fine tuning, but once it's set, it's great. Then I also said the rear master cylinder guard and highway pegs right here, tool tube. That's also what I said. Those are great. Carry zip ties, some tools. I used to have a spare, tube, like the air tube in there, and then I also have some tire irons in there as well. And then I have the rear master cylinder guard. That's something that was already on the bike when I bought it, because this bike used to be ridden off-road a lot. Isn't anymore. Okay. And the last couple upgrades will be the Eagle Mike prevailing torque nut for the front sprocket, Bluetooth tire pressure monitors, and then dual star engine oil cap. The last two we already talked about, which is the extended shifter and the lowered foot pegs, but we'll go over that just a little bit. But here's the engine filler cap, okay, and the prevailing torque nut from Eagle Mike. With the prevailing torque nut, you can change the front sprocket more frequently, and it doesn't need that like retainer clip or that safety clip, because it's a self-locking nut, so it doesn't back out. So it's just easier. It's just one. You just put the nut on there, and it stays there, and then you could take it off to replace the front sprocket. You know, if you let's say you ride out to a location, right? You want to use a 16 tooth front sprocket. You go on the highway. Then when you finally get to your destination, you want to gear down, so you just change it to like 14 tooth. That allows you to do that very easily, right? And I think I forgot one more thing. That was the Bluetooth tire pressure monitoring system. So that's that little cap right there. I have an app on my phone where I can see the tire pressure in real time. And then the last two upgrades that we talked about, which already talked about, which is the drop foot pegs and the shifter. The reason why I originally replaced the shifter is because the OEM shifter actually broke on me. I'm very heavy footed, and so it split there. And so what was happening is that the shifter itself was kind of leaning down a little bit too much, and then it was coming in contact with the bottom rail on the frame, so I couldn't really shift down anymore. So I just went ahead and replaced it. And I said, you know what, might as well try to put some drop pegs on there as well. And I did, and it's been great. Haven't gone back. All right, that is all of my upgrades. Man, that was a long list, but that is everything. And now we're going to move on to the maintenance portion, kind of like a review of all the maintenance that I've done on the bike thus far. Alright guys, so in this section of the video, I'm going to go through my maintenance log that I've been keeping for my KLR 650 ever since I bought it. And there's a lot of these different stars here. They're color coded, and we're going to refer to this legend here. I've done this on my previous videos before, so it's pretty much the same if you guys are familiar. But if you're not, blue stars are going to be any upgrades or new components that are installed. So anything that's new being put on the bike, or if it's just like a new Farkle, that's going to be blue. Oil changes are green. Red is unscheduled or unplanned major maintenance. So this is something where the bike breaks unexpectedly, or I have to do some type of rigorous maintenance, that's unplanned. So for example, if my valves became, way too tight unexpectedly, if a rod bearing something within the engine just went kaput, doohickey broke, I don't know, whatever type of catastrophic thing that happens unplanned, that's going to require some time to repair and some skilled labor to do, that's what the red stars are for. Okay. The orange are the minor maintenances. This is lubricating, cleaning, adjusting, the very simple, ordinary stuff. And then the pink stars are similar to the red stars, but this is scheduled maintenance. So for example, again, going back to the valve clearance inspections, things like that. I mean, these are still require a bit of time and to do, but it's not unplanned. It's not sudden, right? You actually take the time to set the bike aside to do some of these things. And so that's what all the colors mean. And so as we go through this list, starting from the very beginning, we have over here, when I first bought the bike, I was literally just installing farkles, right? LED headlight, top box, phone mount, panniers, hand guards, USB outlet, all that kind of stuff. As we continue to go down is when I did my first oil change at around 12,825 miles, right? And as we continue to just go down the list, the majority of it up until this point, we're just installing farkles and just regular maintenance, cleaning, adjusting things, installing things like the thermobob, cleaning, lubing the chain, doohickey adjustment. Here is when I did the valve adjustment for the first time. I think I say this in my other video. The guy who I bought the bike from, the last time that he adjusted the valves was, well, at the time that I did this, or at the time that I bought the bike, he adjusted the valves like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know how many miles ago that was, but in total he put 11,600 miles on the bike in 17 years. I have put 9,400 miles on the bike at the time of making this video in 1 year. So I didn't know where the valves were, so I just went ahead and opened it up and took a look. I had to adjust each one of them except this guy here. Okay, this will be the right intake. So if you're looking at the top down right side of the bike, the intake side. So all of them were adjusted to these green figures, and that was that. Next we have some more general maintenance and upgrades, and then we have this pink star here. This is when I installed the Eagle Mike doohickey with the torsion spring. Okay, and down here I also corrected the camshaft timing and checked the valve clearances again. After that, we just have a lot of monotonous general maintenance that was done. Inflating air pressure, lubricating the chain, inspecting the air filters, cleaning stuff. I installed my oversized brake rotor here. Okay, next page here, we continue to go down. We have installing a 42 tooth rear sprocket. That's when I was experimenting with gearing ratios. Continue to just do general stuff, oil change. This is when I replaced the battery in the bike. And when I replaced the battery at this point, I found out that the battery that was originally in the bike was 9 years old. A 9-year-old battery. Getting 9 years out of a battery is pretty fantastic for a motorcycle. So, went ahead and replaced that. More just general stuff. Inspecting, lubricating, lots of boring things. Alright, and then here we have when I did the big maintenance for, that was this video. Doing them lots of maintenance. We did all the suspension, the bar risers, the new tires. We did a whole bunch of stuff during this window of time. And the bike was down for a little while, but this was planned. Continue to go along, more just boring, regular maintenance, replacing rear brake pads, general things. And then we get down to where we left off from the last video, the 6-month video, which is around here. Okay? And so since my 6-month review video, we basically did some more oil changes, adjusted doohickey, normal stuff. And then we checked the valve clearances at this point. So at 19,796 miles, I checked the valve clearances because since I installed the new valve shims, or since I adjusted the valves, it was almost 7,000 miles. I think it was around 6,000. Let me go back. 13,000. So it was about 6,500 miles since I adjusted them. And when I inspected them at this point in time, the valves were literally set to the exact same place, which I set them to, over 6,500 miles prior. So I let them be. I changed the valve cover gasket because it was leaking a little bit. Did an oil change, inspected the doohickey even, corrected the camshaft timing, and cleaned and lubed my primary drivetrain. So this here is the first and only red star incident that I have for the KLR 650, and I'll explain to you guys what happened. So from my 6-month review video, I told you guys about the bolts that I had in my front brake rotor. I think I remember telling you guys about these. What happened is that they backed out again. This time I was actually riding home. Luckily I was coming to a stop. It wasn't while the bike was at full speed, but while I was coming to a stop, the brake caliper itself came off the front brake and kind of went into the front wheel. Again, thank God, I was actually coming to a stop instead of at full speed. So it was really like maybe 5 miles an hour coming down to 0 miles an hour. When it went into the front wheel, it actually sheared off my valve stem, you know, at the time. So simultaneously, I got a flat front tire, and the front brake caliper came off. So I had to limp it back home, and what I did is I had to install a thread repair kit for the mounting bracket. Okay. So this is an aftermarket piece. This is for the oversized front brake rotor. That's how the threads were looking on the mounting bracket for that. Okay. You guys can see that. All right. So what I did is I got a box of these. Thread repair kit. Went ahead and drilled it out, put some of these in there, and it's been good ever since. I also put some thread repair kits in some other places on the bike as well, like the foot pegs, because those always backed out slightly after a while, so I just put those in there, put some Loctite in there. Also haven't moved since. And got the front brake pads replaced, got a new front tube installed, and I went ahead and made sure that I balanced the front wheel and checked the spokes. They were all good. Everything else has pretty much been just regular maintenance. Applying Loctite to some things, more oil changes, and then our most recent would be installing the lowered foot pegs and replacing the shifter, which I also showed you guys that the shifter broke. Another thing to note with this, you guys can probably see a bit of a pattern here. So pretty much almost every week or two, well, not in the very beginning, but every week or two I was doing around 300 miles or more of riding. And so every week or two I was always doing something with the bike. Right? It's like a little over 300 mile jump there, a little over 300 mile jump there. So every week or two I was always doing something because I was riding the bike so much. But since July, as you guys can see there, July I had a little over 20,000 miles on the bike. And since July, so for the past 4 months, I've only put like 900 miles or so on the bike since. And that's because around this time I no longer needed to commute back and forth from work, because that's when I stopped going to or stopped working at the place that I was working at during that time. So the maintenance has really slowed down since then, and here I actually had to replace my front tire tube again because I accidentally rode on it while it was flat, because in between here was like almost a little over 2 months worth of the bike not necessarily sitting, but not really being ridden very often. And I unknowingly rode the bike with the front tire with really low air pressure, and so I had to replace the front tire tube again. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I said, it's just been very monotonous, boring, general maintenance. Other than fasteners, basically fasteners, I've had no issues with this bike. All right, so you guys, after seeing my maintenance log, overall, I would have to say maintenance-wise, this bike has been mostly just general maintenance, right? Inspecting things, changing your oil, replacing things when, they need to be replaced, or upgrading things. It's an old bike. Also, it's a KLR, so there's definitely been times where bolts have literally just went missing. Case in point would be like my seat bolts, which I replaced. Some other miscellaneous bolts that I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. The most recent one would be the one where I mount my little USB charger thing. There used to be a bolt down here and another little bracket. It fell out. It fell off. So I just have it with a zip tie right now. And then again, other than that, using thread repair kits, like we talked about with the aftermarket Typhoon brake rotor, and then for the foot pegs, those are the two places that I know off the top of my head where I have used the thread repair kit. And other than that, again, it's an older bike, replacing seals or gasket. So the gasket, valve cover gasket, okay, that's been replaced, and put some RTV on there as well. The front fork seal or seals, yeah. That's pretty much it. With it being an old bike, there's really nothing maintenance-wise that's been a shocker. It's really just keeping up with stuff, replacing fluids, general boring maintenance. But overall, when it comes to reliability, as far as being able to turn the bike on and get to where it is I need to go, it hasn't failed me in that regard whatsoever. So as far as like maintenance, yeah, with an older bike, you're gonna have to do quite a bit, especially if you were riding as much as I was. Almost 10,000 miles this year. But it's not too much of a deal. So what are my final thoughts about my ownership experience with this 2005 model KLR 650 that I've owned for the past year, riding it 9,400 miles and utilizing it for the majority of the year as a main method of transportation to get to and from wherever it is that I needed to go. I genuinely have to say this has been a blast riding, especially when I put it into retrospect in comparison to my experience with other machines in the past. I have finally been able to utilize a motorcycle for the main purpose of what it is that I bought it for, which is to ride it as a way and a method to save money on gas. Like, it's just been a blast and been an absolute blessing to finally have a machine that I can spend a lot more time riding than wrenching on, right? You guys saw the maintenance log. You saw the vast majority of the things I did was very simple stuff. Clean the chain. My weekly routine was just clean the chain, inspect fluids, look at this, look at that, make sure I didn't lose a bolt, and then keep on riding, right? That pretty much sums it up. And when maintenance needed to be done or needed to be taken care of, I took care of it. But nothing that was surprising for an old bike. Yeah, so it's just been an absolute relief being able to do that and having a machine that I can rely on. That's what you need when you need to get to and from places and commute. And even when it comes to once the commuting phase was over, I had some fun with it. I actually went out to visit Crest. We had some fun over the summer, man. Definitely didn't do as many miles the past 4 months like we saw on the list. I only did like 900, but just getting out, it's been a blast. It's still been very reliable. Taking it wherever it is I still need to go. It's very similar. I guess my viewpoint still really hasn't changed from my 6-month review video, which is the KLR 650. It's likened unto like an old Toyota Corolla or an old Toyota Camry, right? It's not a powerhouse. It's not super great performance. It's not super flashy. It's very bare bones, basic. But the one thing that it has is that very well known and rock solid reliability. You just know that this bike is going to work. Okay? And I know it's old, so you're gonna have to keep up with your maintenance. But overall, when you turn that key and you turn the bike on, it's going to take you where it is that you need to go. And that's exactly what this bike has been, right? Just like an old Toyota Camry, just like an old Toyota Corolla, Are there better commuter bikes out there, performance-wise? Absolutely. There's like the new Honda Transalp that's just coming out. Or is out now, really. You have the new Suzuki V-Strom 800. You also have the new Royal Enfield Himalayan 452 that's coming out as well. You also have even Honda. They released their version, really, of like the Hawk 250. So it's like I believe it's, I forget what it's called, but it's like a 125 or 150 cc dual sport bike that's like less than $3,000. All those different types of bikes and many more perform better in certain regards, either whether it be more power, whether it be a lot more technology, whether it be better gas mileage. There's a lot of bikes out there that are just flat out better on the spec sheet. But for $2,000 or $3,000, anywhere between there, you can't really go wrong with a bike like this, right? And especially for someone who is of my size, being 6'5", being really tall, my selection for motorcycles is already very slim, right? So for that price point and having a bike that's as big as this and as capable as this and as reliable as this, I can't really think of any other motorcycle that can fulfill that role at that price point, right? If money wasn't an issue, I probably would own an Africa Twin, but I also probably wouldn't be worrying about gas mileage so much either, to be honest with you. But yeah, I've had a blast with this thing. It's been a pleasure owning it for this past year, and being able to ride more than wrenching has also been very refreshing. So if you're a big tall guy like myself and you're looking for cheap, reliable transportation in a form of a motorcycle, KLRs are definitely not a bad choice. But I would also say, if depending on your needs and depending on what your wants are and depending on your budget, there's definitely better bikes out there. And if you're not a very tall person like myself, then there's definitely better options out there as far as commuting purposes, right? Like if I was a foot shorter, or if I was, 7 inches shorter, I probably would opt for a V-Strom instead of a KLR 650. And that's just me because, again, I'm a person who wants to utilize a bike for commuting. So I would just spend the extra $1,000, get the V-Strom, because it's just a much better commuter bike. But the KLR, ergonomics-wise and performance-wise, for the price point, fit my needs a lot better than the V-Strom did, because the V-Strom just too small for me. So where we go from here, overall, utilizing this motorcycle as a daily method of transportation, that phase has come and went, as you guys have seen, and as I talked about before. I stopped utilizing this as specific daily method of transportation since July, and I've still been using it to go everywhere I needed to go, but it's just slowed down quite a bit because the need to commute was removed. That could still come into play in the future, but definitely I don't have this big expectation anymore to use it in that manner. Well, because it's just not there at the moment. But if it does arise, well, it'll be used as that, for that purpose again. I have 2 other videos planned that I want to make about the KLR. One is an update to my using a motorcycle to save money on gas video, to see just how much money I actually saved using this motorcycle for the past year. And then second will be sharing with you guys my trip that I made to Crest. And that'll be really cool. So until next time, guys, stay safe out there, and peace.
They like, I hear you talking wins, but I see your losses. You celebrating crowns, but I see your crosses. That's the paradox, it don't fit in your merit box. You might not understand it, you walk in this pair of socks. The victor ain't the one that's winning, 7th inning. Trophies don't go to the ones that got a good beginning. When I say I win, I'm in this day I'm in. I mean that day, but the grace I fade out then. I'm winning cause I ran with him.